Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one. Welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. Let's get the medical news out of the way first, because there is news and it is actually good. So, if you recall in the last episode of Mingles with Jingles, I was getting a bit concerned. And when an Englishman says they're a bit concerned, we have a habit of understating things. So, yeah. I was getting mildly concerned that it had been more than a month since my CT scan, and nobody had gotten in touch with me from the hospital to let me know what the results were. The CT scan, of course, was taken a year after my bowel cancer surgery last year in order to check for any reoccurrence of the cancer. And yeah, as you can imagine, kind of anxious to find out whether or not I could expect to live another year. And the hospital hadn't got back to me more than a month after the scan. Also, I was supposed to have a colonoscopy as well, and they hadn't even gotten in touch with me to make an appointment for that. So I called the hospital, and here's where I started running into problems. Because I spent a couple of days calling the hospital, just trying to find somebody who was in a position to actually give me an answer. The issue, it was partially my fault. I mean, when I had the surgery, they gave me all kinds of paperwork, as well as contact numbers for the colorectal nurses, if I had any questions. But that was a year ago, and I've lost the paper. So I thought, this will be fine. It's the 21st century. I'll just go online. National Health Service has a website. The hospital has its own website, and I'll just find the number for the colorectal department, and I'll call that. And that's where I ran into my first problem, because I always say the National Health Service is fantastic. From the doctors down through the nurses, down to the janitorial staff and the hospital porters, absolutely every single person who is in direct contact and is caring for the needs of the patients is amazing. Where it all goes to shit is once you get past that, once you're no longer actually being treated, and you have to deal with the hospital bureaucracy. And in my case, it was the hospital website, because I'm trying to find a contact number for the colorectal department. And according to the hospital's own website, it didn't have a colorectal department, so there was no number for me to call. So I'm going through all of these departments that might have vaguely been connected to the department that I wanted and could maybe put me through. Eventually, and I always say this about medical staff, doctors are great and all, and receptionists try, but if you want to get shit done, speak to a nurse. So I got through to a nurse at a nursing station, and I think a ward somewhere, absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with, with my problem. And she said, yeah, no problem. I'll take your details down. I'll pass it along, and somebody will get back to you in a day or two. 2 days later, I get a phone call from the department that, according to the hospital's own website, doesn't exist, with the results of the CT scan. It's clear. No reoccurrence whatsoever of the cancer. And that was why they weren't in any rush to book me in for a colonoscopy. They are going to give me a colonoscopy, but it's not urgent. There are people out there, like me a year ago, who need urgent colonoscopies. So they'll fit me in at some point in the next month or two. The CT scan was clear. They're not in any rush to stick a camera up my arsehole. So it turns out I'm going to live. At least for the next year. They'll check again next year. And I went out to celebrate, and this is what my life is now, by the way. But the news that I wasn't going to die this year, I thought to myself, hey, to hell with caution, I'm celebrating. And I went out and I bought a chocolate eclair. It's the first chocolate I've had in a year. Most people in my circumstances, at the news that they didn't have cancer anymore and could expect to live, that's it. Vegas, booze and hookahs. Me, I had a little bit of chocolate. It was really nice as well. I'd forgotten what chocolate tasted like. So yeah, that's the good news. Actually, I don't think there is any bad news. Well, the bad news is I still have to have a colonoscopy, which is not going to be pleasant, but better than the alternative, and there's no rush. Game running in the background, by the way, Deck of Haunts. I'm pretty sure I covered this before Christmas when it was in early access. Or no, not even early access. There was a demo of it. You could play through the first week. It's out now. If you have a look at it on Steam, when it was first released, it had mixed reviews. Right now, they're very positive. Now it's been out a couple of weeks. I had a look at the initial reviews, and it was people that just didn't get it. This is not the sort of game that you're going to complete on your first attempt. It's a deck builder. You are the haunted house, and a bunch of adventurers and interfering kids turn up, and it's your job to either kill them or drive them insane before they reach your heart room and escape. And the negative reviews that I was looking at in the first week after release were from people saying, "Oh, this game sucks. It's way too hard. The adventurers and investigators always get to the heart room." Well, yeah, they're always going to get to the heart room until you've played through a couple of times and you've built up your deck. It's a deck building game. So I have to admit, I did get a bit worried when I saw the mixed reviews at first, once it went on sale. Because I played the demo and I thought, "Oh, this is really good. I like this. Can't wait for them to finish it and put it out on sale." And then they did, and the reviews were mixed, and I thought, how did they screw it up? I mean, they hadn't. It's just that initially people just didn't get it. So the reviews have kind of evened themselves out now, and they're now very positive. I have to admit, I wasn't expecting to like this, because I've never really played any card deck building games before. This was like my introduction. Fortunately, it's a good one, so it's a good place to start. Obviously, if you're not into deck building games, then I'm wasting my time here. But if you are, or you may be not, but you're curious, Deck of Haunts is a good place to start. Just, don't expect to clear it on your first playthrough. Don't expect to clear it on your 20th playthrough, but it does reward perseverance. So, anyway, what's been going on, aside from me not expecting to die this year? I got an email from YouTube today letting me know that my channel was in breach of their community guidelines, which was a bit alarming. At first I thought it was somebody trying to scam me. It wasn't actually YouTube. It was somebody trying to get me to click on this button to correct the problem. But no, it was actually YouTube. It wasn't actually a community guidelines strike. For those of you who don't know exactly what this is, you're aware of copyright strikes. You can have copyright claims on your YouTube videos. God knows I've had copyright claims on dozens of mine. Usually they're complete bullshit. A copyright claim doesn't really mean anything other than that you can no longer monetize that video. It's not the same as a copyright strike. 3 copyright strikes and you lose your channel. And it's the same with community guidelines strikes. So YouTube has these community guidelines, and they're basically a whole bunch of things that they'd really rather you didn't do. So every time you upload a video, YouTube wants to know. Every time you upload a video and you want to monetize it, YouTube wants to know, is there any foul language? How much foul language? What words do you use? Words like shit? Not too bad. You can say fuck. The C word is usually right out. But even so, there are different degrees. Is the profanity in the video thumbnail? Or is it in the first 30 seconds of the video? Or is it in the video description? So there are different degrees of profanity that you can kind of get away with on YouTube. I mean, it's generally safer just to not use any profanity whatsoever. And it's the same with violence. Is it unedited video gameplay from a computer game? In which case, you're usually fine. But is it law enforcement footage with real death or injury? In which case, yeah, you're probably not fine. Like I said, there's different degrees. And there's all kinds of things in these community guidelines that YouTube would rather, it's not just profanity and violence. There's hate speech against minority groups. There's graphical sexual content with various different degrees of censorship posed. For example, when I was doing the Cyberpunk 2077 playthrough, there was the sex scene between Johnny Silverhand and can't even remember the name of the character, but that video instantly got demonetized. But like I said, there are different degrees of what YouTube is okay with. That Cyberpunk video, the sex scene in it was kind of graphic, so yep, no advertising on that. If that had been sexual violence, that would have probably been a community strike rather than just we're not allowing any advertising on that particular video. That's the kind of thing that YouTube really doesn't like you doing. On the other hand, getting towards the other end of the scale, just last week I did a Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 video where Henry ended up getting his end away with a local herbalist in the woods. And it wasn't particularly graphic, although, you did see stuff. You probably wouldn't want to watch it with any young kids. And YouTube did allow advertising on that one, although it was limited advertising, not suitable for all advertisers. So like I said, there's a sort of sliding scale, and you can kind of guess where your video is going to be on that scale according to the type of content that's in it. And most of the time, your guess is probably going to be right. And you do get to rate your own videos when you upload them. And it just, there's no point in trying to lie about it. You know, if you've got some pretty graphically violent gameplay footage, then tick that rating box and let YouTube know. Yeah, there's some pretty nasty stuff in here. This game isn't pulling any punches. If there's any, if you're doing a Witcher 3 playthrough and there's a naughty bit, don't try and say that there isn't, because YouTube's algorithm is pretty sophisticated, and you will have a rating accuracy. And it's in your own best interest to keep that accuracy as high as possible, because then YouTube run less checks on your channel because they trust your ratings. And my accuracy rating is very, very high. So it came as a really big surprise to me today when I got an email from YouTube letting me know that the thumbnail of one of my Kingdom Come videos was in breach of their community guidelines. Not a community guideline strike, very important because that's seriously bad. You get community guideline strikes, you can lose your channel. It's like, in fact, it's even worse than getting copyright strikes, because you get 3 bites of the cherry with a copyright strike. You can lose your channel entirely, depending on how bad the breach is, on your very first community guideline strike. So yeah, you don't want to mess around with that. So I paid attention when I got this email. Let me read it to you. Just pop open my email client. Here we go. Hi, the Mighty Jingles. We wanted to let you know that our team reviewed your content. No team reviewed anything. This was all done by the algorithm. And we think that it violates our self-harm policy. What? We know that you may not have realised that this was a violation of our policy, so we're not applying a strike to your channel. However, we have removed the following content. Thumbnail on video, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, that escalated quickly. So it was just the thumbnail that got struck. So I went to have a quick look, and yep, sure enough, the thumbnail on that video was gone. I don't know if anybody noticed. Probably not. There's only 11,000 of you who've watched it. Yeah, I know, only 11,000. But, you know, these videos don't get the same views as my World of Tanks and World of Warships videos. So, anyway, I fed the cats, and then I quickly did another thumbnail and stuck that up on the video. If you go to check that video out now, you'll see that it has a working thumbnail. But it's not the same as the original thumbnail. So what was it about the original thumbnail that was so bad it was considered in breach of YouTube's self-harm community guidelines? Well, I don't actually have the thumbnail anymore, but this was the background image for it. This was basically the closing scene of the video. It was the aftermath of a particularly nasty battle and ambush in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, where a whole bunch of bodies got strung up from a convenient tree as a warning to others. Apparently this is going to make you go out and want to kill yourself. And YouTube therefore deemed that the thumbnail, not the video itself, just the thumbnail, was in breach of their self-harm community guidelines. The video itself is fine. The video is still up. The video didn't receive any strikes. But where do you think I got the thumbnail from? I mean, my MS Paint skills aren't that good. I didn't make the thumbnail myself. This is a screenshot of a scene from the video. That's why I used it as a screenshot, because it's fairly descriptive of what you can expect to see in the video itself. So the thumbnail got pulled, but the video did not. And when you see that scene in the video, it's worse. Substantially worse. Let's just say it goes into a bit more detail. You don't just see a bunch of bodies swinging from a tree in the distance. Yeah, the video's substantially more graphic than the thumbnail, but the thumbnail got struck and the video did not. And the video is apparently still suitable for all advertisers. So I thought, should I dispute this claim? What's the point? Just change the thumbnail and forget it. I mean, it seems pretty clear that once again YouTube couldn't find its own arse in the dark without the aid of a map and a flashlight. But is there any point? I mean, has any harm been done? I had to change a thumbnail. That's it. You know, there was no actual community guidelines strike. No harm has been done. It's just not worth the effort. So I changed the thumbnail, and I thought, you know what? This would make a funny story for Mingles with Jingles. Oh, YouTube, you so silly. I mean, to be fair, my initial reaction was, how the hell is that going to make somebody want to go out and commit suicide? But that's not all that their self-harm community guidelines cover. Let me read you the exact quote. content that is intended to shock or disgust, or promote, glorify, provide instructions for self-harm, suicide, or eating disorders. So it's the first bit, content intended to shock or disgust. I guess they're just very sensitive about what goes up in your thumbnails. Anyway, like I said, storm in a teacup, no real harm done. In other news that very much amused me this week, Fortnite just added an AI-powered Darth Vader into the game. And when I say an AI-powered Darth Vader, I mean conversational AI. It's powered by, I think, the Gemini AI chatbot. You know, instead of just recording a bunch of voice lines and using those voice lines appropriately, instead, they left the... You know what happened here, don't you? Because everything has to be powered by AI these days, even if it's just not appropriate. So players immediately managed to get Fortnite's AI-powered Darth Vader to say, amongst other things, fuck. And recite a whole bunch of racial and homophobic slurs. Because of course they did. Naturally, Disney were not best pleased. All you had to do was just get your bot to record a whole bunch of appropriate voice lines and then have it regurgitate those wherever appropriate. But no, you left it up to the bot to make its own decisions, and it came back and it bit you in the arse, because of course it did. Oh, Fortnite, you so silly. Advertising on YouTube is about to get a whole lot worse, by the way, assuming you're not running YouTube Premium. There are different levels of YouTube Premium now as well, aren't there? You've got the 100% ad-free experience, or you've got the limited, slightly less expensive advertising version of YouTube. And then, of course, you've got the free version of YouTube, where you get an ad before the video, during the video, after the video. You get an ad before the video preview. Well, actually, you shouldn't be getting any ads on Mingles with Jingles at all. I turn advertise. Although YouTube did give itself the right to run advertising on whatever videos or whenever and however it wants, even if because by default I make Mingles with Jingles ad-free. So you shouldn't be seeing any ads before, during, or after, other than, you know, if I have a sponsored section. But you shouldn't be seeing any YouTube ads on Mingles with Jingles, although YouTube might decide to run its own ads anyway and take the money for itself. But my regular videos, the ones that aren't Mingles with Jingles, I refuse to turn on mid-roll ads, because it's I found it to be one of the most annoying things. And it's kind of related, by the way, to what we're talking about here with Google's Gemini AI and how advertising is about to get a whole lot worse on YouTube. But I found mid-roll advertising just terrible. I used to watch a lot of Corridor Digital videos, for example, and I'm not picking on them in particular, it's just they're a great example. But when YouTube really started cranking up the advertising, you'd see an advert before. This was before I got YouTube Premium. I know, I caved in, I'm weak. But you would get an advert before the video, and then we're talking about a 10-minute video, and in that 10-minute video there would be 7 minutes of advertising, pumping the video length up to 17 minutes. There'd be an ad before, there'd be an ad 2 minutes in, there'd be an ad at the halfway point, there'd be an ad at the 7 or 8 minute point, and these are like 1 minute ads, and it was just out of control. It's going to get worse, because there's this thing called the Brandcast event. And basically, it's a big networking and presentation carnival for YouTube's advertisers. It's a thing that YouTube puts on just for people who advertise on YouTube. And they happily announced what they call peak points. So this is the term that they're using for a new system that lets their Gemini AI identify the most meaningful or peak moments within YouTube's popular content. That's their quote. So what this means is that advertisers can now take advantage, or will be able to take advantage, of Gemini's Peak Points feature to place your brand where audiences are the most engaged. Or in other words, the AI is going to figure out the best parts of the video, you know, when you're getting really invested in what's going on in the video, and that is when they're going to interrupt the flow by sticking adverts in. And this is pretty much the reason why I have to have sponsorships or Patreon or Floatplane. And the reason, yes, Akazuki, this is why you don't get the expensive cat food. Because I refuse to enable mid-roll ads. Because they're really, really annoying. They're basically there to coerce you into paying for YouTube Premium to get rid of mid-roll ads, which is why I don't enable them on my videos in the first place. It's possible you may see mid-roll ads on my videos, but if you do, then that's basically because because they gave themselves the right to stick advertising where and when they wanted a couple of years ago. They wrote it into their terms of service, but I by default turn them off because fuck mid-roll ads, and they're going to get a lot worse. AI. Although, remember, this is the same AI that had Darth Vader running around saying fuck in Fortnite. So whether or not it can be relied to place these new mid-roll ads at appropriate peak points is, well, that's an entirely different matter. I guess we'll wait and see. Well, I won't, because I caved in and I gave up and I actually started paying for YouTube Premium about 2 years ago. I know, I'm weak, but at least when I pay YouTube to not watch any ads, I don't get served any ads. Unlike Amazon, where I pay for Amazon Prime and they make me watch advertising anyway. So I've cancelled my Amazon Prime subscription. In fact, it just expired this month. Because if I'm already paying for an ad-free service, I don't expect to see adverts on that service. And if you're going to run those adverts and say we can get rid of them if you'll just pay us a little bit more, then what will in fact happen is I will not pay you anything and will just stop using your service. See how that works, Amazon? Yeah. Oh, what's that? I no longer get free next day delivery on things that I order from Amazon? Well, I haven't been getting free next day delivery on things that I've been ordering from Amazon, even though I've been paying for free next day delivery for about 2 years now. Because I quite frankly can't actually remember the last time I ordered something from Amazon and it actually arrived the next day. So I guess I'll just have to stop ordering things from Amazon altogether and start ordering them from your competitors. Because if I'm not getting free delivery, I mean, if I have to pay for the delivery anyway, and it's not arriving the next day anyway, then why should I bother ordering through Amazon in the first place? I may as well just start ordering through your competitors. You see how that works, Amazon? Yes. And on that bombshell, that's it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've all had a fantastic weekend. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.